The highest court in the land has now spoken. We will continue to implement this law, and we'll work together to improve on it where we can. But what we won't do, what the country can't afford to do, is refight the political battles of 2 years ago or go back to the way things were.
Joining me now for an exclusive interview, House Democratic Whip, Maryland Congressman Steny Hoyer. Congressman Hoyer, I know you thought that you had final passage of this bill 2 years ago, but it turns out final passage was today when the final conference committee, those 9 people across the street from you, issued their report, and they made the Medicaid provision optional, otherwise left the entire bill standing. What do you make of the Supreme Court's rewrite of your bill?
Well, when you say the rewrite, essentially the bill is whole. We'll have to look at the Medicaid provision and see what might need to be done there. But we're very, very pleased. We thought this bill was constitutional. The Supreme Court has said it's constitutional, was within our powers, and we think that the American public can be more secure today than they were yesterday with the assurance that they're going to have access to affordable quality health care. That was our objective. Leader Pelosi worked very hard towards that end. President Obama worked hard towards that end. We all did, and we think this is a bill that is good for America, and will bring down costs. Will provide for seniors with lower prescription drug costs. Will give young people the ability to stay on their parents' policy until they're 26 if they haven't been able to find a job. We'll make sure that insurance companies can't put caps on insurance benefits when people get really sick, and will particularly importantly make sure that people that already have an illness, a pre-existing condition, will be able to get health care insurance, which they need. So we think it's a good day for Americans.
Congressman Hoyer, I've been saying literally for years, since 2009, before you guys got down to votes on this, that the constitutional authority for an individual mandate would lie in the power to tax. That's why these bills were in the tax committee. They were written there, both in the House and the Senate. Was it just the semantic risk of using the word tax publicly in the past that made Democrats reluctant to cite that particular power?
Well, of course, that was part of the presentation that was made on behalf of the bill, as you know, although it was not the major thrust. But the fact is that I think this is a contribution. And really what it is taking up personal responsibility for our own health care and our own health care insurance, and not passing that along to others and expecting others to pay the bills that you incur when and if and inevitably you get sick and you need medical help. The Republicans, of course, are very disappointed today. They were so sure that this was going to be held unconstitutional. And, of course, Justice Roberts joined the opinion that, in fact, it was constitutional. And I think they're glomming on to this tax provision in the decision to somehow make their continuing case about the fact that we don't need to pay for what we buy.
Congressman Hoyer, you wrote the bill designed to cover over 30 million people currently without health insurance. CBO has recently revised downward their estimate of how many people it would cover, saying it would cover 30 million. But 17 million of those, the majority of those, were to be covered under the Medicaid statute. How do you think the next CBO report is going to score the number of people who will actually get coverage, given that 26 states went to the Supreme Court saying we don't want the Medicaid coverage? Now it's optional for all 50 states.
We're going to have to look at that. We're going to have to address that issue. And we want to make sure that we have as many Americans as we possibly can covered under health insurance to give them, as I say, that assurance of the availability of coverage. So we'll have to look at it.
Before you go, Congressman Hoyer, I'd like to get your reaction to that contempt vote against the Attorney General at the House of Representatives today.
I thought this was a very sad day for the Congress of the United States. This was politics, not due process. This was the choosing of confrontation over cooperation. The normal number of days between a committee action and floor action is 87 days. This was 7 days. It was a rush to judgment. This is all about politics and not, in my opinion, about the ability of the Congress to get the information it needs. The Attorney General has been extraordinarily cooperative, turned over 7,600 pieces of documents for the committee to see. And in fact, the committee's investigation on the underlying substance of this issue was superficial, and they shut out witnesses asked to be called who knew about the incident involved, knew about the so-called fast and furious process, and that's not what this is about. This is simply about politically going after the Attorney General for partisan purposes.
House Democratic Whip, Maryland Congressman Steny Hoyer, thank you very much for joining me on this historic day in the Supreme Court and historic day in the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Coming up, another Last Word exclusive, the woman whose letter President Obama told us about today. She will join me.